Miguel, you're gonna have to put your royal butt.
From America's Heartland, this is GJRB, Clinton, Iowa. Oh, come on. I should have that ready. It'd be a little late. From America's Heartland, this is GJRB, Clinton, Iowa.
The next time you want to buy a piece of land, check out farmland.com to finance it. Farmland is the new online financing option from Frontier Farm Credit. Farmland delivers more convenience, a faster application process, plus competitive rates and terms. Agriculture is changing at the speed of technology, and today we're financing at the speed of agriculture. Apply at farmland.com/radio. Farmland. Open farmers hours.
If I take one more shot, if you take one more shot, ooh, baby, we might just make it to heaven. If you stay up all night, if I stay up all night, ooh, baby, we might just make it to heaven.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Yes, sir. Game over, little boys, little girls. That's right. We're back live here on a Tuesday night here. And, man, we got a hyped up show here. We're going to be going over all kinds of other stuff tonight. We already got Hilary in the chat room. Guys, make sure you like and share and subscribing to this show here because we got some craziness going on.
And if you can play it, it's all about pain. And who's gonna make it? I am the game. You don't wanna play me. I am control. No way you can shake me. I am heavy debt. No way you can pay me. I am the pain, and I know you can't take me. Look over your shoulder, ready to run like a Cleveland bench from a smoking gun. I am the game, and I may lose. So move on out, you can die like a fool. Trying to figure out what my move's gonna be. Come on over, sucker, why don't you ask me? Don't you forget there's a price you can pay. Cause I am the game and I want to play. Time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. It's all about control, and if you can take it, it's all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about the pain. Who's gonna make it? I am the game. You don't wanna play me. I am control. There's no way you can shake me. I am your debt, and you know you can't pay me. I am your pain, and I know you can't take me. Play the game, you're gonna be the same. You're gonna change your name, you're gonna die in flames. Time to play the game. Time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game, and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, it's all about your step. Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Here it is 8:11 p.m. Central Standard Time. Could you believe that I'm not on time? I mean, not like that should surprise anybody, because pretty much everything I do CPT. Oh man, normally I start out the show here, kind of get a little positive about stuff, just try to, get a little upbeat, and I tried a little bit, put a little bit of that upbeat music going there, but. I don't know. Maybe it's just the mood. Maybe it's the weather because, it's storming out here. It's, we got a little tornado action going on. Well, not full on, but just a warning. We got some severe thunderstorm warning. So if we cut out, it might be a power spike, just to let y'all know. But you get the feeling, and I've never been one to believe this, but when you see storms like this, in these most arduous of times, you cannot help but think, damn, God might be mad. And while I don't think he's going to wipe everybody out, I got to wonder if this is an expression of that anger. Oh, goodness. Oh, well, I'm going to do something real quick here. Yeah, we're doing the amateur thing over here as I'm typing out something while I'm talking at the same time because apparently I can't walk and chew gum at once. Let me see here. Look up the Caramel Conservative. And have to learn how to spell these words all over again, too. That's the best part. Especially when you had like a long day and it's all crazy. There we go. Spreaker. I don't have the link on me. And I probably should have it available, but, you know, it just kind of happens. All right. There we go. We kind of got that out there. It's always fun when you start up a show here, even if you did one like a day or two ago, because you always feel like a little bit of rust. It's kind of funky that way. I don't know what it is. And I got to give credit to those folks that do this 24/7. This is their job, you know, and it's like, you know, they're seamless about it. They just kind of go with the flow. But it really helps, too, when you have a producer. And it's, you know, one-man type thing. And, you know, it is what it is. So, you know, already in the chat room here tonight, you know, we got brother Hilario De Leon. He's joining us here in the chat room right out of Illinois. We got brother Bob Huber. Bob's got some crazy stuff here. He's like, yeah, I like amateur stuff. I'm not touching that one. And then we got our good friend for the show here. This is Gary Russin from the GJRB Online Network. Nah, we're doing all right, man. Yeah, I heard you guys got curfew down there. Apparently down in Milwaukee, they had curfew for the last couple nights. And it was interesting because tonight they're still expecting rioting. They're still expecting looting. But they're not having a curfew. Wow. What the poop? What gives? I'm going to hold off on the grown folks talk here for a moment because I'm going to let you guys know right now, for those of you guys that are listening live, and I really, really do appreciate that, guys. But in probably about a half hour, I'm just going to tell you right now, things are about to get real. If you guys listen to the broadcast from Sunday night, I had a good gentleman, a good friend of mine here out of Milwaukee by the name of Ian C. Jordan. Now, thing you need to know about Ian and me and a couple other folks is that when we start talking, things get real. This is grown folks talk. We're not mincing words. We're not trying to, you know, we're not here to coddle anybody's feelings. It's going to get real. So if four-letter words in their proper context offend you, I'll try to edit it a little bit later on in a post show and kind of put a clean version up. But I know that's probably not going to happen. I got too many irons in the fire as it is right now. So that being said, just know that it's going to get deep. And when I mean deep, I'm talking not safe for work. But if you're ready to handle the reality of the world, the rigors of what's going on, if you want to find out what's really happening in this country and the solution, then you guys are going to want to make sure that you stay tuned, because the conversations that myself and Ian are going to have, this is going to be off the hook. Now let's go take a look at this here. Over the past, the last 36 hours has been hella interesting. And what interests me about it was I have not talked to so many white folks in my life that were asking me if they were a racist. And I'm fascinated in one sense because it's an interesting sociological observation that when individuals are accused of things, eventually at some point you start questioning yourself on whether or not you are what you're being accused of. So if somebody's accusing you of being a racist, you start questioning yourself. Wait a minute. And then you give justifications. And one of the worst ones I ever heard was, well, I got a black friend. I got a Hispanic friend. And that's always bothered me, that you would buy into that. And I think for a lot of people, now don't get me wrong, I like to think for the most part that I really don't give two squats about what other people think. You notice I'm trying to edit myself right now. But I generally like to think that I really don't give a damn about what most people think about me. But to a degree I do. if any of us are concerned about our reputation, our brand, the value that we create, yeah, if you were concerned about any of those, you do care what other people think about you. But it is strategic. It is targeted people. That's who you concern yourself with. It's not the minimal person or anything else like that. Now, what I was fascinated with, though, was these people, they were legitimately concerned because they were being called as being, having white privilege. They were called out as not understanding the struggles of X, Y, and Z. And I find that so incredibly fascinating because, well, when you make that kind of argument, you have to understand that's a logical fallacy. When the moment you say something like, well, you're not a woman, so you can't understand what it's like to be pregnant. No, I got to put up with your monkey ass. So trust me, I do understand in a very different way. But I do understand. No, I don't understand the pressure of the bladder of a human being growing inside you. That I don't. But I do know the discomfort that you're expressing and also having to tend to you at the same time. So no, it is an experience, but it is a different experience. But to say that a man shouldn't have a say in that particular matter on all things pregnancy is complete and utter BS. You're shutting the person down. By saying that a white person isn't going to understand the problems of black people, Hispanic people, Asian people, you're shutting them down from even contributing to the conversation. And what irritates me so much about that is that you are the same damn people that are going out there talking about, well, you should be judging me on the content of my character. Well, then why the hell are you bringing up being black, white, biracial, or whatever the hell you are every single time you go around? It's like you got to make it a point. Now, I understand. You could easily say that, well, Ed, you do that right now with your show title, The Caramel Conservative. Aren't you being hypocritical? And to that, I would say, first off, F you, because that's what kind of works best for me. But secondly, when I named the show The Caramel Conservative, it was a play on words on a couple inside jokes that I have going on here at home. So, the fact that I am of a darker hue, and I love that word, because it's not too often you actually get to use that word in a sentence, is it? Or at least not in my world. But obviously, I'm a little darker skin tone. And my wife, Jen, she would make the joke about me being caramel delicious. Well, I'm conservative, so you put the two C's together, CC. You just kind of string it together. I don't know, maybe I had one too many cocktails that night, which is very possible. And I just kind of strung them together because it just felt like something to do. It sounded funny, So I went along with the Caramel Conservative and just kind of rode with it. And one of the interesting things about a podcast, and I love this about podcasting because I think on several fronts that it provides a lot of different things. First and foremost, it gives a voice to the voiceless for the individual that may be very charismatic in person, but what could they do with that personality? What could they do over such a medium, such as social media, and get that message across to the people? To let folks know that, ideologically, you are not alone. Ideologically, you may be different. And I love that about podcasting, blogging, a lot of social media. See, there's a lot of negatives on social media. We can talk about those all day long. But there's also a lot of positives, too. The other thing that I did with the show here is I wanted to take a look at a lot of the issues going on from a Hispanic conservative's point of view. Because a lot of people like to overlook Hispanic people in general. It's either you're black or you're white. Well, guess what? I'm neither. I'm kind of right there in between. I'm not hot. I'm not cold. I'm just right. Goldilocks there. But what happens when you grew up at a time like I did? There was a time when for me to get into a fight's not a big deal. There was a time when I was younger in particular. If I wasn't in a fight on any given day, it was a very weird day. It was like fighting was almost a part of the day, as much a part of the day as eating lunch, going out to recess, and getting punched in the face. And it was interesting because it was either I was getting in a fight with white kids because I wasn't white enough, and yes, I got into fights for that, or with black kids because I wasn't black enough. Very interesting stuff for a young kid to try to wrap their head around. And it's funny because I remember at one point, and I've talked about this ad nauseum in the past, and I will continue to talk about this probably till the day I die. But I remember one time my father set me aside, and he told me not to live up to other people's expectations when it comes to, what you look like, what you are. You don't need to be the stereotype. Although, personally, I think stereotypes are funny as hell. I mean, let's face it. I'm Puerto Rican. I love fried chicken. The stereotype is there. The jokes write themselves. But that being said, though, my father told me, don't worry about that. Don't live up to the stereotypes. Be the exception and not the rule. Don't worry about if somebody thinks you're dark enough, not dark enough, whatever. See, my father was in the military. He was Coast Guard. And he had a set of values that transcended race and ethnicity and gender. It was a core. It was a code that people lived by. And yes, people fell short oftentimes. But at the same time, you were always striving to live up to that. To become, because you were part of so many wonderful things. And I remember that so well. And like I said, you don't need to be part of that. So when I see white folks getting all mad or upset at themselves because, in questioning, am I a racist? Stop the shit. Bottom line. And yes, I'm going to get upset about it. Yes, I'm going to get mad because you know what? I have been treated better by white folks overall than even people in Puerto Rico when I lived in Puerto Rico. As a matter of fact, out of all the places I've lived in my life, the most bigoted place I've ever been was in Puerto Rico, if you can believe that. Caller, what's going on, man?
Hello, Brother Ed. It is Hilario. And I have to say,
snap. You
continue to go off on everything because it needs to happen.
Well, I think I'm really upset right now because, like I said, I've had several conversations with a few of my white friends and associates, and they were literally asking me the question, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, y'all need to stop this shit, like seriously. Because, okay, first off, if you were a racist or a bigot, would you even be having a conversation with me? And I know I said a few moments ago, I hate that when somebody's like, well, I have a black friend, I have a Hispanic friend. Well, how about I just have a friend? And like none of these people that I talk to, like they don't treat me any differently. They don't treat me like, with special kid gloves. I mean, these people come at me hard. And these are male and female type people, but they come at me hard, and I respect them for that. And I like to think that's at some level I have their respect because we don't just have these like 1 or 2 minute high and by conversations. It starts out like that, but then it's like 10 minutes later, it's like, yeah, listen, man, I hate to be like this, but I got to go to work, man. And you would sit there for another 30 minutes jaw jacking. Why? Because the character is that damn good on all sides. Now, if you didn't value people for their character, why would you do that, regardless of how they looked?
Exactly. It's just, man, you should see some of the stuff I see on my social media, on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram's notorious. Like, every friend that I have on Instagram has done this thing. I'm looking at it now where they took a picture of a black screen and they shared it to their post, or they changed their profile to be just a black screen.
Yes.
And they're like, hashtag Blackout Tuesday. And it pisses me off that they do that because they think that that's going to solve the issue. The only reason why they do that, and a lot of these people are white that do this, they do that because they don't want to be labeled as a racist.
Well,
they don't want to be labeled as a white supremacist.
Right. It's just virtue signaling. That's all it is. And I saw that. So for those of you guys that aren't familiar with it, for those of you guys that just said to hell with it, I'm on social media today like I'm on any other. If you're wondering why you see people with these just black pictures, there's nothing on there, just big ink blot. It's like somebody, they fucked up a Rorschach check. But if anybody's wondering about that, it's really, I mean, like seriously, it's like, what do you see here? Idiocy. It's this whole thing that we're in solidarity with George Floyd and the protesters, so we're going to be off social media for the day. It's a blackout. Yeah, except there's one major fault here in that. You posted it on social media, so therefore, already screwed up before you even began. So It was like, wait, what are you doing? The virtue signaling going on today is ridiculous.
It's off the charts. And I was looking at all these posts and I said, you know what can I do different to make all these other people look so stupid in what they're doing? Not making fun of the fact that they're doing it in general, but kind of hinting at it, but also doing my own thing.
Right.
And kind of passing off my own words. And so what I did, I went through Google, of course, to look for pictures of a lot of historical people or events that had to do with the abolitionist movement,
sure,
or the civil rights movement. I had the 54th Massachusetts, Frederick Douglass, a lot of white abolitionists that died, Lincoln, all that stuff. And I took their pictures and I put them in row, kind of all in rows. I had about 19 pictures, and I said, instead of participating in the trend that's going around today, I think it's more appropriate to share some of the pictures and paintings of people, both black and white, who spearheaded the way for the abolitionist movement and the movement in our nation's history. Some of these people died fighting. They believed what was right, whether it was serving their country on the field of battle or passing or pushing for legislation that would change our way of life for better. All those people had dreams that they would or wouldn't see.
Right.
To them, it wasn't about just being black or white. No, in the end, it was about being Americans. But over time, within the 21st century, we have lost that understanding what these people did in history. Come there and sit down and have that conversation. We will truly be able to be one once again.
Well, it's interesting because if you go back to that earlier time, if you go back to, Civil War, post-Civil War, trying to be free, the segregation era, and Bob Hubert was talking about this in some of his postings on with some people. And unfortunately, I think because the way Bob kind of types and speaks it out, because he uses dragon speech to kind of get his words out there. So sometimes I think some of the verbiage kind of gets a little lost there. And one of the things I think he was trying to get across there was the idea that at one point there was a lot of black folks that were also very much against desegregation. And I'm not saying that, desegregation was a bad thing. I think personally it was a good thing and it would have happened eventually. But look at one of the reasons, they were against it. It was, because they have black-owned businesses. They have Black Wall Street. A lot of people don't know about Black Wall Street. And I find that to be kind of criminal because there was a lot of black wealth from the businesses and the entrepreneurial spirit. And prior to Black Wall Street, yes, more things were about race because obviously when you're getting your ass kicked because you're black or somebody's trying to lynch you up because you gave some white chick the side eye, well, obviously you might want to be a little more careful. But I just find it very disingenuous today that you got, and I hate it when white liberals do this, and y'all know who you are, when you're like, well, black people are out here scared. And I was like, do you know one black person who's scared? Do you know one black person, period? You know me, so you got like 10% right there. Don't count me, I'm like 10%. That's about it, don't. Because and if you're thinking about, do you know someone scared? Yeah, you're right. That's not me. I ain't the one. But I think it's kind of interesting because you're younger, so you don't recall this. But I would urge everybody to look back into the 90s. And I talk about this all the time, man. The 90s were freaking phenomenal because, and this is one of the things where the Democrats, the Democrats talked about this all the time. They beat this drum to death. It was like, don't look at the color of people's skin, look at the content of their character. And you know what? They won. Mm-hmm. They won that battle. And people were all up in that. I mean, look at the music, right? Some of the biggest artists, was, who was it? Pete Nice and CL Smooth. You had House of Pain. You had Eminem in the late 90s. You had the Beastie Boys in the 80s. Some of the biggest rappers that were in the game with the rap game itself, okay? And that's a predominantly black genre that started out in the black community to tell the story of urban life. And what was fascinating there was it was accepted. Everybody was accepted into it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't cultural appropriation. You look at TV. What was some of the biggest things out there? Martin, The Cosby Show. Yeah, Friends was out there too, but you know what? It was a little bit of everything. Yep, Hubert mentioned Blackstreet. And, all of that was just there. Biggest stars, Wesley Snipes. Who didn't want to be Wesley Snipes in the 90s? And,
honestly.
But my point there was we were looking at the content of everybody's character. If you notice the title of the show tonight, it's evolving just backwards. And I got that from one of PewDiePie's memes. But in a lot of ways, if you think about it, it's exactly what's happening. We're devolving is what's happening. We're going backwards instead of forwards. At this particular point, you can look back into the 90s and think that was an enlightened era, compared to the, the anarchy and the BS that's happening today.
Oh, man, this anarchy is out of control. You're right. They want to devolve almost the human population. They want to get rid of governments so that they could go back and be some nomad Neanderthals or something. No one can talk to one another because if you talk to one another, you're going to create a fight because everyone's just racist. How dare you offend me, et cetera, et cetera. It just doesn't make any sense. And the education system, there's a lot of teachers that are out here that are supporting this stuff. They want to inspire their students to go out and be part of the revolution that they think, well, I don't know where they think, because clearly they're going to lose. And you know what? The media and people on the left want President Trump to do so much. They say, you need to step in. You need to do something.
Well, they want him to be a
this.
Dictator, yes.
Well,
but here's the thing about that.
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, they want him to do something like sending in the military so that they can, or put in martial law, so that they can call him a dictator. They can call him a tyrant.
Yes.
They just want to fit their narrative.
Yes.
It's just so tiring to hear them do this over and over again. And many peers of mine, they just fucking believe it. They just eat it up. There's yeah, we got to take that. We got to take what the media feeds us because, Trump's a tyrant and he needs to be stopped. I wish someone would just kill him. I'm just looking at these posts like, what the hell is wrong with these people? They talk about love. There's so much hate from people that want to love.
Okay, so there was this one dude about 5 years ago that I had worked with, and he was a friend of mine on Facebook, and eventually he unfriended me because, I was intolerant. And again, he was one of the dangerous creatures. Like I've said, the most dangerous creature on the planet is the white liberal. And if you're a minority...
That's what Van Jones said from CNN.
Right. Well, I've been saying it for years, but Van Jones actually says a number of things, and I don't like 80% of what he says. I'm vehemently against 80% of anything Van Jones says. However, That
Me
man,
too, man.
20%
But
of
when
what
he
he
said
says is not just right, it is spot the fuck on. Uh-oh, we might be going into grown folk talk here. But Van Jones, 20% of the time, he'll hit it out the park. And what's crazy about that with this kid, and I call him a kid because he was still living with mommy and daddy, and he was like, his late 20s. And this isn't like, hey, I'm pitching in and helping out with the rent and food and utilities. No, this dude was
or
like,
groceries or anything.
no,
Yeah.
he wasn't pitching in on anything. He was
He was a basement dweller.
right. He was one of those failure to thrive thing, and it was like, dude, you got a disability? No. Why ain't you living on your own, man? Well, my parents said they take care of me. Soy boy. Okay, cool. All right. Okay. I hope you never have a girlfriend because some dude's gonna take real good care of her. Don't worry about it. But dude was telling me, he's like, love trumps hate, and this was right after he was going on how much he hated Trump. I'm like, the fuck you talking about? Love trumps hate.
God.
And of course they don't want to use the play on words with Trump, and it's like, dude. I hope you're not using that line to get laid, because that is like the biggest simp move you could. Oh man, I gotta get the simple arm.
Simpletons are out here using these simpletons are out here taking stupid pills every day and trying. And that's what I think a lot of these people, they're just out here trying to get laid by some crazy left-wing nut job that looks like Kathy Griffin or something.
Well,
and
okay.
it's like, what are you doing with your life, man? I saw another thing today. Now that stupid group called Anonymous is coming back out, and their new thing is they're saying that this just in, we found evidence that Trump is a pedophile and that he's involved in major sex trafficking with little children and this and that. I'm like, and like people that I went to high school with are sharing this out there as if it's like something from God himself. Yeah. And I'm like, how fucking dumb are you? First of all, they're not a reliable source. Second of all, where's the evidence?
Well, there is a.
Where's the evidence?
There's a bunch of different anonymous things out there, so it's like, okay, which one do you generally go with? And I found the one to be the quote unquote most reliable is the QAnon one, because if you look back on the various posts, there's a lot of stuff that's wrong, but there's a lot of stuff that's pretty damn close, and it just kind of, all right, there's that's been called correct, where it's like, you know what, okay, I got to take you serious in what you're saying, what you're posting on here, not preach it as the gospel, but I need to actually, okay, I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to weigh it out, and then I'm going to measure it against what I'm seeing. Now, if I find it wanting, I need to call it out accordingly. However, if I'm finding validity to this, well, at that particular juncture, we need to say, okay, you know what? Let's pay attention, because somebody's got inside knowledge into the playbook. So it's like what Joe just said something. Joe, put that up on the Meme Lord Facebook page. That's a good one. I love it because whenever we're doing the show, we're getting deep on a topic, right? Joe just started posting out memes on here, and it's like, damn, dude, why, you gotta get me like that. You gotta get me, man. And yeah, we got Joe Lozano in the chat room. We got Brother John from OBFSU, the Belly's Blast on here. Oh man, thank you guys all for joining in here tonight. But yeah, so I gotta take that. It's like with all my other sources that I get my information from. I like to take it all with a grain of salt. I like to look at liberal news sources, conservative news sources, and I'll even take a look at those fringe news sources, because at this particular time, like I said, if I had told you 6 months ago we would be living in a world where everybody was worried about a virus that was going to be an extinction level event, you would have called me crazy. If I told you that it was going to be acceptable to walk into a bank with a face mask, you'd say I was crazy. If I told you that our major cities were burning to the ground, which I did say, people still thought I was crazy. but yet here we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of tragic.
Here we are. It's just
kind of tragic,
unfolding
though.
one after another. Got any other ideas that you might think happen? Just so we can prepare.
All I'll tell
It
you,
is very
man.
tragic. It truly is. I mean,
Well, I'm gonna have Ian C. Jordan back in here in a little bit, and we were talking about some of that, and I have an idea of where everything's going to be heading here in the next few days. You know, so I'll give some thoughts on that, but suffice it to say, I will tell you all that if you don't have yourself, if you ain't armed up, if you ain't got no skills, you need to get them now. I mean, there's no more time to wait. You know, it's time up. You know, you need to get your stuff together. And for those of you that can, if you can get out of the city, get the fuck out. Like, seriously, get yourself a new job, move on. Because at this particular point, you don't know when the cities are going to implode, how long this is going to last, when it will happen again. I'm just saying, you need to look out for you and your own. And honestly, that's the right way of doing it.
mm-hmm. I agree. It's, who knows where it's going to come to. Maybe they'll just send in the military and take care of it. A buddy of mine said they should just start napalming people left and right in the streets. I was like, Jesus, man, we can't do that.
Oh, man. Dude's like, I was like, damn, that's more than I do, you know. But, all right, let me talk about that for a second. Because I had a friend who was very concerned about the idea of martial law. And I think it's interesting because a lot of folks don't seem to understand that martial law has been utilized several times, actually more often than a lot of people would like to believe in the past. And what fascinates me is the very fact that because it has been utilized, I mean, Civil War is probably the best example of that. In a lot of ways, our major cities and the state of Wisconsin up until just a couple weeks ago was living under a soft form of martial law. You didn't have to call it martial law. It was martial law. Make no mistake about it. If you need papers to go to and from work, you're living under martial law. If you're being told to shelter in place, you're living under martial law. As we're seeing with the riots when they're doing a phalanx across the street to sweep everybody in, that is martial law. Call it anything you want, like Shakespeare said. A rose by any other name is still a rose. Now, that being said, it is my belief, and I'm just going to summarize it here, that you got Antifa, anarchists, leftist agitators that are going out there creating all this hate and discontent. Black Lives Matters actually has legitimate gripe, and they're trying to do it the right way. Protests affect change. That is the idea. That is our First Amendment constitutional right granted to all of us. Black, white, green, yellow, polka dot, plaid, or Asian. And you got these agitators that are coming in here with the hopes of sparking a race war. This is something that is not anything new. This is something that the left has wanted. And the reason you want to do something like that, especially if you're coming from the left, is that you want to, number one, get all of your enemies, useless idiots and everybody to fight and then take on the victors.
One another.
Right. And when everybody's wiped out, you take on the victors while they're at their weakest and you wipe them out. Why do you do something like that? Because it is better to rule in hell than it is to be a subject in heaven. That is the philosophy of individuals that are willing to do scorched earth across the board. It is also my belief, though, that within the next few days, and a lot of people seem to think that, well, Trump doesn't have those powers, Posse Comitatus Act. You have to understand there are a number of other acts that have given President Trump a lot of leeway that he would not have had last year, such as the National Emergency Act that he was enacted prior to during the COVID-19 situation back in March. That gives him the ability to utilize the military. Not only does that give him the ability to utilize the military, but Antifa has made the fatal mistake of trying to create branches overseas, in Europe in particular. And guess what?
And now they have been labeled as a terrorist
organization, and because they have marketed themselves and gotten chapters overseas, now you are an international terrorist organization. Therefore, you can and will be hunted anywhere on the planet. And people are worried. I don't want to see tanks in the street. I don't want to see platoons of Marines and, whomever on the street. It's not going to be like that. I'm going to tell you this right now. It will not be like that. There are enough special forces and platoon and small groups of people that can do the job. And these strikes, they will be surgical. They will be fast. They will be hard. And they will be getting a lot of these young kids that have they're lost. They don't know what a man is.
These young basement dwelling punks,
right?
That live on their mom's paycheck to paycheck,
right?
That go out there, and then they go to college, and then they sit in their little inner circles, and they plan and they cause chaos, and then they're going to be sitting at home playing Call of Duty, thinking that they're the real shit. Oh yeah, look at me, I'm taking on all of you. And then you're going to have these teams, these special forces teams. They're going to come in through every window, just like they did in Christmas Vacation, and they're going to take them out.
It's funny you mentioned
them, but they're going to just drag them out of there.
Well, some of them they might just pop a cap in somebody's ass. But here's the thing that's funny too, and I always think it's funny when people bring up Call of Duty and stuff like that, because the game I'm playing now, I was playing Fortnite for the longest time, so I play Apex Legends now. And these dudes, they're like hauling ass. They're just running all over the place, shooting and stuff. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, man, I'm actually kind of good at this. But I'm thinking to myself, I try to put myself in. One of the best things you could ever do is try to put yourself in the other person's position. Try to get into their head. Because the more you can get into the head of your opposition, or even your allies for that matter, the better you can glean a greater understanding of where they're coming from and how to either defeat them or maximize their potential to create what I am a huge proponent of, a win-win situation. Now, I'm over here putting myself in the mindset of that Antifa, soy boy who's sitting in his basement as I'm sitting in my own basement. The difference, of course, I own my basement. But I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, if I could do, I bet I could do this. And it's like, dude, and like you got that other voice in your head. I'm over here like, well, yeah, you can shoot, but that running shit, no, dude. The only place you running to is probably when that's like at 5 a.m., dude. When you wake up, you ain't running anywhere. That's why I tell people, I ain't running from cops, pit bulls, extinction level events, volcanoes. I ain't running from nothing. I know I smoke. That's all I know. Man. Right. It's like, dude, you smoke a pack a day. You ain't running anywhere. Nope. No, sir, I'm not. I can just imagine running from a cop, too. That would be the best. Cop be like, dude, seriously, where you going, man? I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to do that. And I can just see the cop if I was running away from me, like, do I look like I'm in the mood to run? And I'd be looking at him like, no, sir. Do I look like I'm in the mood to run? I just figure I'd give you something to laugh at. That's all I'm saying. Oh, man.
Well, I mean, in times like this, we gotta laugh. I mean, and another thing that's really frustrating me is that there's some friends that I'm with that are kind of libertarians, or they kind of fall more that way.
Yeah.
They are the kind of people that when they see this, they are like, it's time to boogaloo. We got to get our Hawaiian shirts on and grab our guns and we're going to go take on the government. It's like, what are you talking about? Shut the hell up. There's nothing. They really want this to be like this. You ever see the movie The Siege with, what's his face? Yeah, the movie The Siege with Denzel Washington. Yeah. Where they take over the city of New York and they're rounding up terrorists. They want that to be the movie so bad that they can start acting like they're Red Dawn or whatever. Like, yeah, Wolverines, boogaloo time.
It's a cute thought.
Shut up,
it's a cute thought, and it's funny because prior to and I am pretty familiar with the militia movement. Haven't even been a part of one at one point. And I am friends with a lot of those folks to this day. But I've never heard of the Boogaloo Boys. I've never heard or seen Hawaiian shirts up until about 3 days ago. So it's like, where y'all pulling this shit from? And it's funny because I look at everything going on, and I was kind of frustrated about this. I think I did this last week, and I'm like, we're all right. 3%ers, where are you? Y'all talked a good game for the longest time, but where you at? The country's burning around you, and this is the opportunity. And where you at? Okay, but oftentimes I think it's also good to vent, and then you have to start thinking reasonably, rationally, strategically, and then utilize tactics. Because while it might seem to be the right time to act, it's not.
It really isn't. And I'm all for militias. I think that our nation, if we were to ever get invaded, which strategically that wouldn't make any sense unless it was multiple nations at once. But if we were to get invaded by a foreign power and the military and law enforcement is not able to withstand them, it is the duty of the citizen to take up arms and actually have militia groups. That could be like the second to last front to stop these people. Because in the last front would be everyone on their porch with their grandma shooting slugs into, I don't know, commies or whatever. Who knows?
Well, that's the very foundation of this country. It is a rifle behind every blade of grass.
Mm-hmm. And I'm all for that stuff. But you're exactly right. They have to know when the time and place is. Look, if you don't like the system, get involved. Change it from within.
But I think
a lot of tough and take many of years.
Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of them are. I think a lot of them are getting involved. I think a lot of them are getting involved, and what they're changing is one person at a time. Because and I don't want to say the name of the group right now, but the group they kind of help form certain ideas and stuff for me, because I got to see a different side of the Patriot movement, and I found it to be fascinating. Mm-hmm. There were some things that were a little me, and then there were other things that was like, okay, this is spot on, such as the idea of you're taking care of your family, your community, making sure that you learn basic skills, everything from fire starting to just how do you assemble a weapon, and take it apart, practice. It preached a lot of the tenets that when I was in the Marine Corps, that was done oftentimes. Mm-hmm. So, I got nothing bad to say about it, but the point is that, like I said, it was the idea that, you got to be strategic. Just because somebody is acting does not necessarily mean that you need to react at that moment in time. Maybe the best thing you can do is to go ahead and let them display their strengths, let them display their weaknesses, see how far they're going to go, and then shoot them to hell. So that's kind of, it's an interesting thing because, when you're right, it's a good plan. If you're wrong, well, it makes it look like you shit the bed. All right, man, listen, I got to let you go here because I'm going to get ENC Jordan here in a little bit, but I want to take my first break because, let's face it, my coffee mug doesn't fill itself.
I appreciate you having me on.
No problem, brother. So, all right, man, give me a few minutes. And, thank you very much, Hilario. Make sure, where do you find you on social media again, man?
I say that again.
Where can we find you on social media? What's that Twitter? What's that Facebook?
HDeLeon12 on Twitter, and then my normal name, Hilario De Leon, on Facebook. People have Instagram, same thing.
Yep. All right. Make sure you guys follow Hilario, man. Give him some love so he knows that he's got someone to have his back from the liberal trolls and all that stuff out there. So, all right, brother, let you go here, and I'm going to kick it here. We're going to do a quick little music segment, and then what I'm going to do at that point is I'm going to get ENC Jordan up in here.
All right, man. You have a good night.
All right. Thank you, brother. We'll talk to you soon. All right, that was Hilario De Leon. So, guys, give us a couple minutes here. I need to get a couple things. Like I said, the coffee mug don't feel itself, so we're going to get that handled right now.
Sleepless nights at the chateau, visualize it.
I'll give it something to do.
Crunch, crunch, wherever we go, visualize it.
I'll give it something to do.